287 days. That's how long Harry stayed consistent before he decided compounding was a lie. His screen barely moved. It felt like pouring water into sand. If you felt that, you're not alone. The first stage of compounding isn't growth, it's disbelief. This isn't just about money, it's about a fundamental misunderstanding of how true wealth is built, a misunderstanding that costs most people their financial future. But here's the twist. The slow part isn't the problem, it's the design, a feature, not a bug. There's a simple mental model that fixes this perception fast, transforming frustration into unwavering patience. It's called the 8-4-3 rule. Not a magic trick, not a guarantee. It's a profound timing lens, a way of seeing wealth accumulation that once you grasp it, you can't unsee. It reframes the entire experience, turning an uphill battle into a predictable, powerful ascent. Harry isn't a finance bro. He's a hotel front desk agent on rotating shifts, taking home $3,379 a month. He splits a cramped 2-bedroom, drinks too much vending machine coffee, and keeps telling himself he'll start for real when life calms down. Sound familiar? If you're thinking, that's me, different job, same pressure, you're right. That's the point. Harry, like so many, tried the normal motivation hacks. He watched highlight reels, downloaded every budgeting app, and promised himself discipline. Then the market dipped. His balance dropped. What's the point? Why am I doing this? And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people quit right there. Not because they're lazy, but because the scoreboard is lying. Your brain, wired for immediate gratification, craves a straight line. Work equals reward. Compounding doesn't pay like that. It pays like a delayed explosion, a slow burn that suddenly ignites. The risk? Giving up just before that ignition. The opportunity? Unlocking a patience rule that transforms your financial trajectory. So Harry, out of sheer frustration, built a rule for his patience. Not another restrictive budget, not an overwhelming spreadsheet. A simple, actionable patience rule that changed everything. Before he could build this rule, Harry had to understand what he was buying. An index fund, he learned, is basically a basket. Forget picking the next apple. This isn't about finding a single winning lottery ticket. It's about owning a piece of the entire market, a whole basket of companies, like a curated playlist, not just one song. You don't need to pick the perfect track, you just keep playing the playlist, letting the collective power of thousands of businesses work for you. And the market itself isn't some mysterious monster. It's a dynamic ecosystem of millions of people and businesses, buying, selling, earning, failing, growing, all at once. It moves like the ocean, wild up close, but when you zoom out, over years and decades, it reveals a powerful, undeniable calm, an upward trend that has historically rewarded patience. Now, here's the critical problem that derails most aspiring investors. When you invest a little at a time, especially in the early years, the numbers on your screen simply can't look impressive. Your money hasn't had the crucial ingredient, time. You'll feel like you're barely moving, like you're behind, even when you're perfectly on track. This stagnation is the silent killer of financial dreams, and that's precisely where the 8-4-3 rule steps in, offering a profound reframe. It posits that the compounding journey tends to feel like 3 distinct lives, 3 different phases of experience. The first phase feels agonizingly slow, almost imperceptible. The second phase starts to show discernible movement, a gentle acceleration. And the third phase? That's when it starts getting weird, almost unbelievable. This isn't because the underlying math of compounding suddenly changes. It's because your money finally has enough mass, enough momentum to truly snowball. And tragically, that third exhilarating phase is the part people never reach because they quit during the boring, frustrating chapter. So Harry, determined not to be another statistic, made the boring chapter harder to quit. He engineered his own persistence. He called it the keycard rule, a simple, almost ritualistic anchor. Every time he clocked out from his hotel shift, he'd hold his hotel keycard in his hand for precisely 10 seconds. During those 10 seconds, he'd ask himself one powerful question. Did I buy my future today? If the answer was no, there was no guilt, no spiraling. He didn't let the emotional weight of a missed day derail him. Instead, he'd walk to the lobby ATM, pull out a single crisp bill, not to spend but to physically anchor the habit, to make the abstract concrete. Then he'd open his brokerage app and place a small buy. Usually $37, sometimes $51, sometimes $29. Small, embarrassingly small, some would say, and that, paradoxically, is precisely why it worked, because it didn't demand a perfect month, a huge lump sum, or superhuman discipline. It required a repeatable moment, a consistent, almost automatic trigger, forging a new identity. Hotel keycard equals future purchase. This wasn't a motivation mechanism, it was a system, a habit, a commitment to his future self. And if you're thinking, okay, but how does that make compounding not slow? Here's what, and this is the part that truly flips your brain. Harry stopped tracking dollars, he tracked shares. Because dollars swing wildly with market fluctuations, creating emotional roller coasters. Shares, however, stack, they accumulate. When the price dropped, he didn't see it as losing money, he saw it as an opportunity, a chance to buy more pieces of his playlist at a discount. He wrote the share count on an index card and taped it inside his closet door, a place he couldn't avoid seeing every single day. Every week, he updated just one number, that single share count. And now the scoreboard finally told the truth, a truth that resonated with his long-term vision. Because in the early years, the real win isn't about seeing massive growth in dollar value. It's about relentless accumulation. It's about building the foundation, brick by painstaking brick.
Let's make this real with Harry's journey. He started with zero invested, a blank slate. He committed to an average of $237 a month. Not every single month, but an average. Some months he did more, some less. Life happened, but he fiercely protected the streak, the habit of contributing. After 1 year, he had put in about $2,844. Fine, nothing impressive. After 3 years, his balance was still not life-changing, and this right here is the insidious trap, because your brain, observing the slow progress, whispers a dangerous lie. If 3 years didn't change my life, 15 years won't either. That's the lie. That's the quitting moment, the point where so many throw in the towel, and a lot of people are stuck there. In fact, a big chunk of households don't even have retirement accounts at all, more than you'd guess. So if you've even started, if you're even watching this, you're already doing something most people never do. That matters. That's a win in itself. But Harry didn't want a gold star for effort. He wanted results, not to be a dreamer. He distilled his understanding into 3 powerful lines on a sticky note and slapped it on his monitor at work. 3 years to watch it run. That was it. No hype, no grand pronouncements, just a clear, unwavering commitment to timing. Now, here's the part that truly hits home, the core insight of the 8-4-3 rule. The first 8 years are not about getting rich. Let me repeat that. They are not about getting rich. They are about getting unbreakable. Because the real enemy in this journey isn't low returns, market crashes, or economic downturns. The real enemy is you changing the plan. It's the emotional, impulsive decisions that sabotage long-term gains. People jump in, jump out, chasing fads, panicking at every dip, and inevitably miss the best recovery days, the days that disproportionately drive long-term returns. They don't lose because the market is rigged. They lose because they can't sit still when it's loud, when the news is screaming doom and gloom. So Harry built quiet into his system. He engineered a way to remove emotion from his decisions. He even made a rule with his roommate. If he ever sold out during a market panic, he owed his roommate $43 cash instantly. No debate, no excuses. A stupid, seemingly insignificant little penalty, but it made quitting, made giving in to fear feel tangibly expensive. And now, when the market dipped, he didn't argue with himself for hours. The question became simple. Do I want to pay $43 to be emotional? Nope. Short sentence, big effect. This small, almost absurd penalty became a powerful circuit breaker for his emotional impulses. Month after month, year after year, the shares climbed, steadily, relentlessly. And you might recognize this next scenario. Life, as it always does, threw a curveball. His car needed repairs. Not a cute minor repair, but a real, significant one. The mechanic quoted $979. Harry stared at his checking account balance like it had personally offended him, barely enough to cover the repair. The temptation was immense. He could have sold some investments, just a little, to cover the cost. He could have paused his contributions for a while. That's how the slide starts. A small compromise here, a temporary pause there, slowly eroding the foundation. Instead, Harry did something that looks small on the surface, but changes everything in the long run. He took a night shift swap for 2 weeks. He picked up extra hours, sacrificing immediate comfort for his long-term vision. He made the repair without selling a single share. The share number didn't go down. And that moment, that seemingly minor act of discipline, did more for his wealth than any hot stock tip, any market surge, or any lucky break, because it proved he wasn't just gilding an account, he was building a person. The kind of person who doesn't cash out their future for a present problem. The kind of person who understands that true wealth is built on character, not just capital. And if you're sitting there thinking, okay, but when does it feel fast? When does this slow burn finally ignite? We're almost there. Don't blink. Here's the profound insight that most people miss about the 8-4-3 rule. It's not saying your money literally doubles on a perfect clockwork schedule. It's saying the experience of compounding fundamentally changes in distinct stages. Initially, your consistent contributions do the heavy lifting, slowly building the base. Then your contributions and the nascent returns start to team up, a partnership forming. But eventually, and this is the magic moment, the returns themselves start bullying the contributions. They become the dominant force, generating more wealth than your own savings. That's the moment everyone yearns for, the tipping point, the financial singularity. But tragically, few people ever reach this reveal because they give up too soon. This is where Harry's brain finally clicked, where the abstract became concrete. He was reading Atomic Habits by James Clear on his break, and one line landed like a hammer. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. This wasn't about willpower, it was about design. So Harry asked himself a dangerous question. Can I stick to this even when I'm bored? Even when it feels like nothing is happening? And he found the answer, the profound validation in the 8-4-3 rule. He realized the first 8 years aren't supposed to feel rewarding in the traditional sense. They're supposed to feel normal, almost mundane. That's precisely why people fail. They're waiting to feel inspired, waiting for a surge of motivation that rarely comes and never lasts. So he stopped asking for inspiration. He asked for proof. He pulled up a long-term market chart not for daily fluctuations, but to see what average returns have historically looked like over decades, not days. But only if you stay in, only if you resist the urge to tinker. Then he did the math on his own life. He had been investing for a little over 7 years at that point. Not perfect, not flawless, but consistent. His total contributions were around $21,311, and the balance was about $32,973. His money had made about $11,662 without him lifting a finger. Not overnight, not viral, quiet, steady, real. And here's why this is so crucial.
This is the 70% moment. Harry finally understood that the 8-4-3 rule isn't primarily about time itself, it's about who is doing the work. In the early years, you are the primary worker, diligently contributing. Then you and your money share the job, a growing partnership. But eventually, your money starts working harder than you do, becoming the dominant force. That's why compounding feels agonizingly slow until it doesn't. That's also why quitting in years 6 or 7 is so tragic, so heartbreaking. You're walking away right before the job handoff, right before your money is about to take over the heavy lifting. So when Harry finally hit year 8, he did something that sounds utterly ridiculous, but it profoundly rewired him. He celebrated Engine Built Day. No champagne, no grand party, no flexing on social media. He bought a cheap toy engine from a thrift store and put it on his desk. He touched it. Engine built. Don't restart. Simple, physical, stupid, yet incredibly effective.
It was a tangible reminder of his commitment, a symbolic marker that he had passed the point of no return, that the engine of his wealth was now self-sustaining. Then the next phase began, years 9 through 12. This is where people suddenly think they got smarter. They didn't. They just finally stayed long enough for the earlier money, the money from those slow, boring years, to have enough time to truly grow. Harry's contributions kept going, maintaining the streak, but the growth started showing up in significant chunks. A single good month could now add more to his balance than his entire week of personal investing. And this is where the temptation shifts. Early stage temptation is quitting because it's slow. Middle stage temptation is getting cocky, believing you're a genius. People start thinking, I'm good at this. Maybe I should pick individual stocks. Maybe I should try to time the market. Harry didn't. He stayed boring, relentlessly boring, because boring is precisely what compounds. He kept buying the playlist. He kept stacking shares. He kept using the key card trigger, his simple, unbreakable system. And when the market had a rough patch, when others panicked and sold, he didn't treat it like a disaster. He treated it like a sale, an opportunity to acquire more shares at a lower price. Is that easy? No, it requires a mental fortitude that goes against our natural impulses, but it's simpler than you think, a consistent application of a few core principles. Then came the final 3 years, years 13 through 15. This is the part where the snowball gets truly heavy, where its momentum becomes undeniable. The growth can start looking like a different person is contributing, as if an invisible, tireless worker has taken over. And that's when the compounding story flips from I'm doing this to this is happening. The effort you put in years ago now yields exponential returns. Think of pushing a car. At first, it won't move an inch. Then, with sustained effort, it creeps forward. Finally, it rolls, picking up speed with the same push but with entirely different physics at play. That, in essence, is the profound power and predictable progression of the 8-4-3 rule. It's not about magic, it's about understanding the physics of patience and persistence. So, starting today, here's how you can apply the 8-4-3 rule and transform your own financial journey. First, stop asking compounding to entertain you. It won't. It's a quiet, diligent force. Embrace the boredom of consistency. Second, pick a simple, broad investment you can hold for the long term. A diversified index fund is the classic battle-tested choice because it's diversified by design, a basket, a playlist that rides the overall growth of the economy. Avoid the temptation to chase individual stocks or complex strategies unless you are a seasoned professional. Third, pick a trigger that isn't your paycheck. Relying on payday can turn investing into a fragile ritual easily skipped with the excuse of just this once. Instead, use a life trigger you can't avoid, something deeply ingrained in your daily routine. Harry used the key card from his job. Maybe yours is brushing your teeth. Maybe it's your lunch break. Maybe it's when you park your car at home. Same cue, same action every single time. Fourth, track shares, not vibes. If your brokerage app shows how many shares you own, write that number somewhere physical, tangible, a note, a card, a calendar. The point isn't perfection. The point is that you can see progress, real accumulation, even when the market is loud, volatile, and seemingly going nowhere. Finally, commit to the 8-year engine. Tell yourself the truth. Internalize it. The first 8 years are supposed to feel slow. That's not failure. That's the design. That's the crucible where true wealth is forged. So if you're in year 1, year 2, year 5, and you're thinking, I'm not getting anywhere, understand this. You are getting somewhere. You're building the engine. You're laying the groundwork. When your money finally starts doing the real heavy lifting, when it begins to work harder than you do, you'll be profoundly glad you didn't quit during the boring chapter. Because the boring chapter isn't just a phase, it's where the entire story of your financial freedom is decided. Compounding isn't slow. Quitting is fast. Stay in the game long enough to be free. Start small. Start today. Protect the streak. Keep yourself in the game long enough to win.